Hi, everyone, and Happy New Year to you. Since it is the start of a new year, we thought it would be a good opportunity to bring you some information from the City of Gallatin about our Economic Development Agency. I'm Paige Brown. I'm Mayor of the City of Gallatin. This is James Fenton, who is the head of our Economic Development Agency. And a lot of people don't realize how much the City of Gallatin actually invests in economic development. We try to attract good jobs to our area for our citizens who live here, but we also work to serve our existing industries. So James is the expert, and he's going to be giving us some good information. But start out, if you would, James, just talking about what the Gallatin EDA does on a daily basis.
On a daily basis. It looks different every day, as a lot of jobs are, but our job really is to go out there and help existing industries expand. It's our job to make sure we're answering their concerns, getting them taken care of so that they can go ahead and grow. About 75 to 80% of jobs that occur in a community historically come from those existing companies. So that's our first concern. Doesn't get the big splash and the big news that attracting new companies does, and that's something else we spend a lot of time doing, is going out and knocking on doors and inviting companies to come and locate in Gallatin. In fact, we've had quite a bit of success this year.
We have had good success. You mentioned existing industry, and last year we did have a lot of growth in some of our existing industries. We have manufacturers who are branching out and manufacturing new items. We have companies that are continuing to grow. You want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, we attracted almost 800 jobs this last year. Quite a few of them, though, were from new companies. We had folks that were moving up out of Nashville, running out of space down there. But we've got some of those manufacturers here that have, because the economy's been booming and so good, they've been expanding and making sure that they can hire more people, which gives us, again, those higher employment numbers.
Well, that's good. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned the number of jobs last year, but also how do you measure success? Because it's not just jobs. In the past year when we look back, one of the things that you always tell me that you're proud of the City of Gallatin for is that we invest in ourselves. So that might be a good place to start.
And it's truly part of that great story that I get to go out and tell mayors, the fact that we do really invest heavily in our utilities, in our roads, in our different departments, the police and fire and that kind of stuff. It makes it a safe city, and every year this community gets more and more beautiful. So that investment in itself really pays off, and it allows us to have just a solid story to go out and tell.
One of my favorite points that I like to share that I think people don't realize or don't realize the significance of is that Gallatin owning its own utilities is very powerful. Beyond that, with all the growth in Middle Tennessee, you'll be surprised to know this, but with all the growth in Middle Tennessee, and certainly in our city, our utility capacity is still great, and that makes us very attractive to people.
It does. We've got companies looking at us right now. They're here almost specifically because we do have that excess capacity in our utilities, the water and the sewer. Dave Gregory's done a great job leading that department and making sure they're planning ahead all the time to make sure they do stay on top of that, because they can't grow without water.
That's right.
For sure.
In your expert opinion, what would you say attracts people to Gallatin?
First off, it's our location. It truly is. We're right here in the Middle Tennessee area, but this location is a great city. We've thought about it. And again, talking about those investments, we have those parks, we have those trails, we have the waterfront, we've got all those things. Incredible downtown that we have here that's alive and vibrant and growing, and we have elected officials that are very much aware of what's going on, are supportive of everything that's going on. That makes a difference, too. You know, you've worked with groups of elected officials that aren't quite as
well, it's hard when a company's looking somewhere and they get nothing but pushback. It's easier to go somewhere where you're welcome, certainly. I would think that they would be attracted because of our culture to some degree, and because of our schools, because Gallatin and Sumner County have good schools these days. So I think those are factors, too, that are probably appealing.
Truly, we had a company in here from California just the other day, and one of the questions they asked about was, what are your school systems like? What's that like? And so I'm actually having lunch with the head of our schools on Monday to talk through what kind of a story he'd like us to be putting out there, because we do really have these great schools, and we're going to try to help him craft a good story about that.
We have a great story to tell. We need to tell it well. I think another thing that they often ask about is housing, because they don't just need one kind of housing. Often when companies are looking at a city, they need a wide range of types of housing. And so they want to make sure that there is housing in a community that appeals to the workforce that they plan to have in their facility.
And when we tour the city with these folks, we do make sure we go to every part of this town, because you're right, everybody doesn't want to live at Bay Point or wherever, so they want to make sure that there's some houses
And
of
not
all ranges.
Yeah, I was going to say, not everyone makes the same wage.
Right,
That's a key
right.
element, too.
Yeah, it is.
You talked a little bit about the numbers from last year. Are there any specific companies that you'd like to share some success stories about, or?
Well, interesting, over the last 8 years or so, we've attracted over 4,000 primary jobs here in this city. And that means, the announcements that the companies make, be they expanding or new companies coming in, probably 10 new companies that have come here over these last 8 years with 4,000 jobs. But that doesn't count what we call induced jobs, because for every job that comes in and as a manufacturer, somebody has to sell them gas and groceries and clothes and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So there are another 2 jobs that are created for every one of those. So really, we've probably created close to 12,000 jobs. Have been created here in this city. We haven't created them. They've been created. The private sector creates those jobs. And that's taken our unemployment from 7.9 to 2.5.
Yeah.
And we've grown by almost 10,000 people in that last little, 8-year span too. So it's you can kind of see all the numbers coming together. It makes sense.
I would mention, and we love all of our businesses and we wish them all well, but it was really significant, I think, for Gallatin to have Archer Data Centers announced at the end of last year, because that's a different type of business here in Gallatin. And to bring in those technology-centered jobs, because we know they pay well, is very meaningful. And so that was an exciting one, particularly, I think, for us, because it was something very different than what we had in the past.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And again, we were talking, very few of the jobs that got created here last year were in manufacturing, and that was one area that we were excited. The city, with their strategic plan, had steered this office towards that a couple of years ago, so that's been something that we've been working on. And we worked hard with Vol State and the Nashville Technology Council to go ahead and put an educated pipeline of workers in place first, and that made a difference.
And that makes me think, explain who you consider your partners in economic development, because there are several. Volunteer States
yeah.
certainly would be one.
Yes, Dr. Faulkner and Vol State are at the table almost every single time we have a company that comes in here looking. But I also work with the State Economic and Community Development Group there. They've got really strong folks there. TVA is a big partner of ours also. They have, being the power producer, but a lot of folks don't understand when TVA was first formed back in the 30s, one of its legs was economic development. So they spend a lot of time and energy in that arena also. So those are the major ones that we work with, and then of course all the brokers and all the real estate agents and all those folks that we that rely on us for information and help, and we rely on them for leads to bring folks to the area.
To bring us jobs, exactly. Well, let's talk about looking forward, because it's exciting to think about what may be. And so what's your forecast for the year, Mr. Fenton?
I envision 2020 being a really spectacular year for the city of Gallatin.
Like significantly spectacular?
Yes, I do. I think we're on a track, and if you look, that we've got people like the Beretta and the Gap and ServPro, we've got some nationally recognized companies, and we've still got companies that are nationally recognized that are looking at us now, some of them internationally. And so our proximity to Nashville and this incredible quality of place we have, utilities, all that stuff, I think is going to make 2020 be a spectacular.
Well, I think that's good news. So that's some information that we just wanted to share with you from our Gallatin Economic Development Agency. I certainly want to say thank you to the residents of Gallatin, because I believe you're a big part of why companies choose to come here, stay here, and why they find success here. So thank you for what you do to make our city as great as it is. And thank you, James. And
Thank you, Mayor, for your support.